Hop online, scroll through your feed, and you'll find two totally different stories. One says the US dollar is about to collapse, the other says its dominance is stronger than ever. So what is actually going on with the world's most important currency? Well, we're going to break it all down. You've absolutely seen the headlines, right? The social media posts are everywhere. It's a massive question with huge implications for literally everyone, including what's in your wallet. So today we're going to cut right through the noise and figure out what's really happening. Okay, so before we get into the big fight, we need to get one thing straight. Why is the dollar king to begin with? Just picture this. A coffee farmer in Brazil wants to sell beans to a buyer in Japan. The farmer doesn't want Japanese yen, and the buyer doesn't want Brazilian real. So what do? They use a common language for trade, and for decades that language has been the US dollar. It just makes everything smoother and simpler. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. The numbers are absolutely staggering. When you look at what the world's central banks are holding in their savings accounts, their foreign exchange reserves, a whopping 58% of it is in US dollars. That is more than double its closest rival, the euro. This is what dominance looks like on a spreadsheet. So why is it so powerful? It all comes down to something called the network effect. Think of it like your favorite social media app. The more people that use it, the more valuable it becomes for everyone. The dollar is basically that, but for global money. It's part of nearly 9 out of every 10 currency trades, and it's the foundation for most international debt. In a crisis, it's where everyone runs for safety. It's simply the biggest, easiest, and most trusted option out there. But here's where it gets really interesting. For all its benefits, there's a serious pushback brewing. This isn't just talk, it's a real movement to build an alternative. And the reasons are powerful. Countries are getting tired of US sanctions. They want to protect their own economies from America's policies. And frankly, they want to shift the balance of power in the world. So who's leading this charge? Well, it's a group you've probably heard a lot about, BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and their partners. And this is no small club. We're talking about a huge chunk of the world's population and economy. And they are very deliberately working to trade more with each other in their own currencies, trying to chip away at the dollar's grip. And this isn't some 10-year plan. It's happening as we speak. Get this. A staggering 90% of all the trade between two economic giants, Russia and China, now completely sidesteps the US dollar. That's a real, measurable crack in the system. And it's not just about these specific trade deals. The dollar itself just had a really tough year, dropping about 9%, its worst showing in almost a decade. And you can bet that a drop like that only adds fuel to this whole de-dollarization fire. It gets people nervous, and it gets them talking about alternatives. Now, if we zoom out, you can see this isn't just a one-year blip on the radar. The dollar's share of those global reserves we talked about, it's been on a slow, steady slide for more than 20 years. It's not a cliff dive, for sure, but it is a clear, gradual erosion. The downward trend is undeniable. And of course, this trend leads to some really bold claims, the kind you see all over the internet. The dollar is finished, BRICS is taking over. But is a sudden replacement even possible? Let's get real and look at the actual facts on the ground. And here's the big reality check. When you actually look for another currency to take the throne, there's just no obvious candidate ready to step up. The euro is a solid number 2, no doubt. But the Chinese yuan? It has some huge hurdles. You can't just move money in and out of the country freely, and there's a deep lack of trust in its legal system. See, a global currency needs more than just a big economy behind it. It needs deep, liquid markets, and maybe most importantly, the world's trust. Okay, I know this all sounds very geopolitical, but why should you actually care? Well, it hits you right in the wallet. The world's constant hunger for dollars means there's also huge demand for US government debt. That makes it cheaper for the US government to borrow money, which in turn helps keep interest rates lower on everyday things like your mortgage and your car loan. So, if there's no immediate challenger waiting to snatch the crown, does that mean the dollar is totally safe? Well, not necessarily. The consensus among a lot of experts is that the biggest long-term threat might not come from the outside at all. Instead, many analysts will tell you the real risks are homegrown, things like our own rising national debt and political chaos. But a really big one is the so-called weaponization of finance. Think about it. Every time the US uses financial sanctions, it gives every other country in the world a massive incentive to go and build their own system that America can't touch. So this brings us to what de-dollarization probably means for the near future. It's not a single event. It's not a switch being flipped. The expert consensus really points to a slow evolution, away from a world with one boss currency, toward a world with several key players. The dollar will almost certainly stay number one for a while, but it might not be the only game in town anymore. So we end with this final thought. The dollar's role in the world is, without a doubt, changing. The ultimate question isn't just about which country is going to challenge it. The real story to watch is how the United States itself chooses to manage its own crown. The future of the dollar's long reign might just depend more on choices made in Washington than anywhere else.